Hello and welcome to the Start U of G session on preparing for university academics. I'm Janessa and I'm part of the START team who is helping you prepare for fall 2026. Before we dive into today's presentation, I'd like to begin with a land acknowledgement. With great respect, the START team acknowledges that the University of Guelph resides on the traditional lands of the Haudenosaunee and Anishinaabe and the treaty lands of the Mississaugas of the Credit. We recognize that today, this gathering space is home to many First Nations, Inuit, and Métis people, and acknowledging them reminds us of our relationships to this land where we all learn and grow together. As a new Griffin who is joining our University of Guelph community, it's incredibly important for you to understand the importance of land acknowledgements and why we do them. Online, we've got a website, University of Guelph's Land Acknowledgement website, where you can learn more. My colleague Will is going to post that link in the Q&A, and I encourage you to take some time to read that and understand why we do them. Now, today's presentation is all about helpful tips and tricks that you can use to prepare for university academics. Today, we're going to talk a little bit about some of the differences between high school and university academic success with some tips. We'll also talk about classroom expectations, different types of classes, ways to find balance and manage your schedule. And we've got some great folks here with us to chat a bit more about resources for transfer students, resources that the library offers you, wellness as well, and more. I'm going to pass things over to my colleague Will, who's going to chat with you a bit about the difference between university and high school. Over to you, Will.
Yeah, thanks, Janessa. Hi everyone, my name's Will. I'm going to my 5th year in the Bachelor of One Health program here at the university with a minor in chemistry, and I work as an orientation facilitator for student experience. So I work on orientation week programming for students coming to the university throughout the summer and into September. So I'm here to talk a little bit about the transition from high school to university classes, what some of the big differences are that you'll probably experience as a student. So high school classes, everybody's sort of on the same schedule. You move from class to class throughout your day, probably somewhere between 9 and 3 p.m., some period in there. You'd have small assignments sort of throughout the semester. You've had class time to work on a lot of those assignments. It's the experience you probably will have in university is going to be different from that. Some of you may not also be coming straight from high school. You might be transferring. You might have taken some time off. You might have been in another post-secondary institution. Your high school experience might have been different if you're from like out of Ontario or Canada. But this section will still have some good reminders for, in general, what university is going to look like for you. So learning in university is not going to look the same. First year courses in university emphasize a lot of new skills, new ways of learning. And it's going to be, a lot of it is going to be working smarter, not harder. So working strategically and consistently. So to work through assignments, keep track of your schedule. So you're not going to be in class all day. You've probably already done your course selection, so you already have an idea of what your schedule will look like. But you might have classes that are Monday, Wednesday, Friday in the morning, and then you might have a night class on a Tuesday that goes from 7 to 10. So this is kind of where learning effectively and managing your schedule effectively is going to come in, as it's up to you to make your schedule and sort of work out how you're going to manage your time between those classes, working on homework, working on assignments. You're not going to have necessarily dedicated time in class for much of that work. The workload that you're going to have as well is very, very much variable. Depends on which courses you're taking, what time of the semester you're in, what type of program you're in. But some general differences. University courses have smaller but more heavily weighted assignments. So you'll probably have You get up a 30%, an essay that's worth 30% of your grade. That's due partway through the semester. You could have exams that are worth 20% or so of your grade or more. You will likely have assignments that are overlapping, either that you're working on at the same time for the same class or for different classes that are happening at the same time. You'll also have a variety of class styles. We'll talk about that a little more later. But you could have a lecture that is 500 people or 600 people with a lab section that is 20 to 30 students, or a seminar that will vary in size depending on what the course is. You'll probably have less class time dedicated to certain subjects. So again, as you said, you might not have class time for homework, but you do have more independence, which kind of comes with the making up your schedule as you go. Semesters are also shorter, and classes go at a bit of a higher pace as well. So a lot of information is covered in a short period of time. My choice, the best way to stay on top of your homework, go to class as much as you can, complete the assigned homeworks and readings. A lot of it is about practice as well, of how much you sort of get to practice with some of the subjects. It can be easy to fall behind and challenging to catch up if you fall behind as well. So generally, for a university course, you'll expect to have about 3 hours a week in a class. Again, this might be more if you have labs or seminars, and you'll expect to have about 3 to 6 hours a week outside of your class as well. That could be reviewing for exams, that could be working on homework or large assignments. And it's best to stay on top of this so you don't have it sort of pile up towards the middle or the end of your semester. In high school, you also probably still developed a lot of the skills for time management, adaptability, communications that you're going to have to practice when it comes to university. Multitasking, having multiple priorities can be overwhelming for a lot of people. You're not alone in that. I've experienced it. Everybody, I think, who's come to university has had some experience with trying to manage so many different priorities. It can feel like a lot, but if it's how you're feeling, you're also not alone. We have a lot of resources. We'll talk to wellness later in the session. You can also email us. We have a lot more information. You can reach out to us at start@uofguelph.ca. If you're still looking for some resources, we'll be happy to point you in the right direction. And I'm going to hand it off to Jen, who's going to talk about, who is our transfer student coordinator, going to talk a little bit about transfer students. Jen, over to you.
Thank you so much, Will. And hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Jen. I use she and her pronouns, and I'm the coordinator of transfer student programs here at U of G, which means I work with new post-secondary transfer students. So if you're coming from another college, another university, or an Indigenous institute, I will typically help point folks in the right direction of resources and provide some guidance and support for incoming students and what they need to achieve their version of academic success, which is important to note that it does look different for everyone. A lot of my support and what this looks like involves listening to everyone's unique perspective and their own unique academic experience, as each and every transfer student will come in with different experiences in academics, and then hearing those successes or concerns, and from that helping students identify the support resources that are best for them. To begin, you already have a bit of an advantage having done the transition from high school to post-secondary at least once before, which automatically makes things just a little bit easier. It's valuable context that you have gained from this past experience that can help you identify some habits or supports or environments that might have helped or hindered your academic success, and then use that knowledge to your advantage in this new academic setting at Guelph while you're studying here. First thing to consider, prepare to experience some academic differences based on the school you last attended. Going in and assuming that one post-secondary school is the exact same as the other may not be a good bet. Reflect where you might see some similarities and differences, and that can help you prepare a bit more for day one. So if you're transferring from a college, for example, you might notice a difference in class sizes or the structure of some of those bigger lecture style classes. There may also be differences in the types of lessons that you're attending, which we'll talk about class types a little bit later in the session. But you may experience a mixture of lectures, seminars, labs, and so forth, depending on your program. Other areas where you might see some similarities or differences are types of assessments like exams or quizzes, different writing styles for assignments, and different teaching styles from profs. And next thing you would want to consider in terms of setting yourself up for success is getting to know and understanding your learning style a bit better. This is a little bit easier said than done, but you can get a start with reflecting on your study habits in the past and spaces that might have been more or less conducive to your learning. When you've been studying in the past, did you discover that you do much better in silence with some white noise on, or something in the background to help you focus? Do you need a study buddy, or do you need total privacy when you're trying to get some work done? If you're still learning how you learn best, I encourage you to stay curious about what is or isn't working for you, because starting at a new school is a great opportunity to try a new approach or a new resource to find something that might be more effective for you. Which does bring me to my final point. Learn more about and leverage the support resources available to you as a U of G student. You're already getting a great start right now attending this session or watching this session later on. Also think about what has helped you succeed academically before, and maybe what about that helped you achieve that success. For example, maybe a study group held you accountable to attend classes and allowed you to collaboratively learn with your peers, problem solve together, create some bonding. If you haven't explored resources like that before, or any kind of academic success resources like a tutor or accommodations or anything like that, consider where your strengths are and where you may need an extra hand. Like if there are subjects you have to take in your required courses where you think you might struggle a bit more, or if there's any barriers getting in the way of your learning. And in summary, preparing yourself for that mixture of familiar or similar and different learning experiences, because I doubt that it would be all the same or all different. And also remaining curious about those new approaches to learning that I mentioned can help you thrive in your next stint at post-secondary academics. If you'd like more information after this presentation about any of the resources that we will talk about in this session, or if you would like any assistance going about accessing services or resources we'll talk about, you can connect with me anytime over email or by booking a one-on-one virtual advising appointment. Both links will be shared in the chat of this presentation. And with that, I will pass things back over to Janessa, who is going to go over some general academic expectations and tips for success. Over to you.
Thank you, Jen. And just as a little reminder for folks on the call, you are able to post questions in the Q&A section of Teams. So if as we're going through some of this, you have some more questions, like you've got questions for Jen about being a transfer student, you can ask those questions in the Q&A and we'll be able to respond. So now we're going to chat about expectations in the classroom. So for your classes, there is a 10-minute buffer time built in between your classes. So that gives you some travel time to get from one course to another if you've got back-to-back classes. Do your best to arrive on time to each of your classes. We know that sometimes life happens and your bus gets delayed or something like that. It took you longer to find parking and then get to your class. So do your best to arrive on time. But if you do happen to be late, just be sure that you're entering the classroom with a little bit quiet and you're trying not to disturb the other folks in the room who are busy learning. In your classes, to make sure that you're getting the most out of them and that you're learning the content your instructors and professors are teaching, it's important to be mindfully present, being in the moment instead of thinking about all the things that you have to do after class or later tonight. We'll chat a little bit more about note taking in a little bit, but note taking itself can be really helpful so that you're engaging with what your instructor is teaching or what activity you might be doing as a class. And then engaging in class. And at the start of the semester, your professors and TAs will let you know a little bit more about the specific expectations for their class. In a large lecture hall, we're probably raising our hand and waiting to be called on. In smaller classes, in seminars, maybe there's different expectations because it's a smaller group. So in that first week, really pay attention to what your instructors and TAs are sharing for their expectations. In addition to coming on time, you'll also want to be prepared. So that could include bringing a laptop, bringing your notebook, or any of your preferred note-taking supplies that you need. In class, water and other drinks or snacks are allowed in lecture halls, but just be respectful of what you're bringing. So if you've got a really crunchy snack, that might be a bit distracting to the other folks in the class. So just be mindful and respectful about that. When it comes to note taking, you'll want to find the style of note taking that works best for you. And it's possible that this will depend on the course. Maybe for some situations, doing handwritten notes helps that information stay in your brain a little bit better. Maybe you're somebody that likes to type the notes so that they're nice and neat and you can go back and look at them later. If your professor is someone that shares the slides in advance or at the beginning of a lecture, maybe you want to take those slides and annotate them with notes so that it is all collected in one spot. During the first little bit, it'll be important for you to figure out what type of note taking works for you. And it's okay to try a couple different styles before landing on what really works for you and is best for your own learning. And just keep in mind that the note-taking style that one of your friends or classmates uses might not be the style of note-taking that works best for you and your learning. I also want to highlight the syllabus or your course outline. This is something that you'll get really familiar with at the start of the term, and each of your classes will have a syllabus, also called a course outline. This is really important for you to read at the start of term so that you understand what's expected of you throughout the semester, but it'll also be great for you to go back to throughout the term if you have questions about the course. You'll be able to find quite a few answers in the course outline. So this is where your professor will share dates and deadlines, the list assigned readings and textbooks, the contact information for the professor, as well as any teaching assistants, and assignment instructions. So you'll see on the screen there, this is an example of what one course outline would look like. So we've got the course title right at the top, and then some additional information listed there right at the beginning, including how many credits the course is and how many hours. A written description about what you can expect to learn in the course. There's a section about the timetable, so when and where the class will be taking place. And then information about your course instructor. You'll see that this also includes their office hours, a time where you would be able to meet with them. Teaching assistant information, required readings, and then on the pages after would be more specific information about the assignments. I recommend that at the beginning of the term, you go through that and input all of those important dates into your calendar or planner or whatever you use to manage your time. Which brings us to our next point about planning ahead. Once you have access to all of those course outlines, you'll want to find a way of tracking all of those class, lab, and seminar times, assignment deadlines, midterms, as well as some of your personal commitments. So, do you have a work schedule or a volunteer schedule that you need to assign time for? Are there any religious observations happening for you this term? And if there are, do they conflict with any of your tests or midterms? If you have a religious observation that conflicts with a test or a midterm, you can use the QR code on the screen and be taken to our academic accommodation of religious observations page with information on how you can request an accommodation for that time. You need to submit those requests within 2 weeks of receiving the course outline. So it's important that you plan ahead so that you're not the week before your midterm and realize that there's a conflict because we might not be able to accommodate it at that time. And then you'll want to also build in time for studying, reading, completing assignments, and all of those tasks that maybe don't need to be done at a really specific time, like attending class or doing your work shift, but are still really important that you build time to do those. Some other times that you might want to keep track of are your professor's office hours. So different than high school, where you might be used to seeing the same teachers every day, you'll be seeing your professor each week, but you might be in a larger class. So you might have to put in a little bit more effort to reach out and communicate with them. And office hours is a great opportunity to do that. This is time for you to connect with your professor and the teaching assistant outside of the classroom to get some support in understanding the concepts that have been taught in class, preparing for your assignments, getting feedback on assignments, things like that. University is a very independent learning environment. You'll be using and developing a lot of critical thinking skills. And it's really important that you're taking the lead in managing your time through intentional planning to make sure that you have enough time to do your readings, to prepare for your assignments, and to study for your midterms and exams. You also want to build in time for self-care so that you're taking care of yourself, especially if this is your first time living away from home. And we've got Shannon from Wellness who will be chatting a bit more about some of the wellness resources to support you here at U of G. And one other thing to note for learning in the classroom, if it comes to recording lectures, so using any sort of recording device, whether that's like an AI tool, a physical like recording device, you have to have permission from the instructor to record any part of their lecture or their teaching. Some of them will tell you at the start of the term what their stance is. Others, you may have to request that. So if you plan on doing any sort of recording, you need to get that instructor specific permission. It can be really helpful for reviewing notes and things like that. So as a tool for learning can be great. Just make sure you get that permission from them. And now I'm going to bring back Will, who's going to chat with you about the types of classes that you may have. Will, over to you.
Yeah, thank you. So when you were doing your course selection for the semester, you might have noticed different types of classes, lectures, labs, seminars on your schedule. So I wanted to give a quick breakdown on what those class types entail so you know what to expect when it comes to those classes in your first few semesters. So lectures are generally large groups. The professor's teaching to a large group of people. You can ask questions. It doesn't usually have like large discussions. It's usually going to be the biggest group of people for the course, though. So in your first year, you'll probably have some pretty big lectures. For example, so I Bachelor of One Health, and one of the big classes I took was Introduction to Anthropology. So that lecture section, actually, there are about 2 lecture sections with about 500 students. So a lot of programs, some programs require it, some programs have it as an elective, but a lot of those programs require this course. So a lot of students are going to be in it. Seminars are smaller groups compared to a lecture. This is where you'll typically have a lot of group discussions, activities, potentially presentations, usually going to be led by teaching assistants. And they're a great place for you to ask questions about course content, ask about your assignments. We'll also probably have like participation marks or evaluations. Again, could be assignments, could be group projects that are happening, but typically there are grades associated with some part of the seminar. Labs are similar, but typically involve like a hands-on experiment or practice kind of exercise. So commonly this is in like science courses. So I've taken a lot of chemistry classes, so like analytical chemistry had a lot of labs. But it can be common from other courses. So I took a pure mathematics course in second year. It also had a lab, but it was mostly to do with practice problems and assessments in that course. So a lot of seminars and labs don't run during the first week of class because the schedule is usually connected to what you're doing in class. So check with your instructors, check with your prof. If it explicitly says that there's no lab or lecture happening, then that means it's canceled. But otherwise, you should expect that it's going to be happening unless told otherwise. Distance education, this is a little bit different. These are courses that are entirely online through CourseLink. So that's the university's course websites, probably called a learning management system. So if you use something like D2L, it's the same system, or if you've used like a Google Classroom, it's going to serve a similar function. So these are designed to be more flexible. They're typically asynchronous, so again, you won't have in-person or like live lectures. So I took a really good DE course a couple of years ago, Introduction to Epidemiology. It's a pretty diverse group of classes that are offered in that format. Most courses will have multiple formats. So you could have a lab and a lecture. You could have just lectures. You could have a seminar and a lab. You could have all three of them. You'll be able to see. So if you go into WebAdvisor, look at your course schedule, student planning, you'll be able to see what these look like. So labs and seminars will be purple. Your lectures are going to show up green. If it's a DE course, they won't show up on the schedule. It'll show up at the bottom of the screen. And yeah, that'll sort of show what the difference is. You might not know what the final schedule for everything looks like locations or instructors until September. Some things change between now and then, but you should have the times and dates for your classes for now. With that, I'm going to hand it over to Heather from the library, who's here to talk about all the wonderful things going on over there. Heather, over to you.
Thanks so much, Will. Hi, everyone. My name is Heather. My pronouns are she and her, and I am a learning specialist in the McLaughlin Library. That's U of G's only library. When you think of libraries, you might think really about books or places to study, sometimes a place to go between classes. And while we do have all of those things, and each floor kind of has a different vibe, and so people tend to gravitate towards one floor or the other, the library is full of people whose job it is to help you become the kind of student that you want to become, the more successful university student. We don't expect you to arrive here already knowing how to study for a university exam or how to read a journal article or write a university paper. We don't expect you to already know how to find academic research or even how to manage all of your courses all at the same time. Those are skills that you'll develop. You'll jump right into it in first year, but you'll continue to develop those throughout your time at university. So we, the folks in the library, are here to help you develop them. This year, we also have a new academic support hub, which is on the first floor of the library, and that's where a lot of the folks that are here to support you will be available. I'm going to take you through some of the library services that I'd like you to know about before you need them. So these are things to really keep in mind for those first couple of weeks that you're on campus. So the first one is the supported learning groups. The reason that I wanted to mention this first is because these groups are dedicated to traditionally difficult courses. So those are things like economics, chemistry, psychology, biology, calculus, things like that. If you're interested in a particular course, you can let me know in the chat and I'll let you know if there is an SLG for one of those. The students don't remember that it's supported learning groups. As soon as you're on campus, people will be talking about SLGs, and we have thousands and thousands of students come to these SLGs every year. They are really appreciated, I think, because they're led by an upper years student who was already really successful in that class. And that leader's job is to guide weekly sessions, weekly study sessions over the course of the whole semester. And they help figure out like what are the best learning strategies for that course. They also attend that class, so they know what your prof is saying. They know what the students are talking about. They know what those sort of pinch points are that they can bring to the study sessions. There are two sessions, two 90-minute sessions every week, and they are drop-in. So let's say there's like a small conflict, one of your classes ends before the SLG or the SLG has already begun. You can just drop in anyway, even if it's a half hour in or an hour in. They create these awesome study packages every week, and you can go in and follow along with that study guide. And those are really awesome study tools for when you're prepping for your tests and your exams as well. Um, I'm just thinking about another thing that students have recommended as SLGs for, and that is a place to go to meet friends. SLGs start the second week of class. So any SLG that you have, I would recommend that you build right into your schedule. The students who are going early, they also care about how they're doing in the class. You get to work in small groups and large groups in a way that feels the most comfortable for you. So I would say don't wait until you feel like you're struggling with the course. Don't wait even until right before that first midterm or test. Start right away and build that into your study schedule for the whole semester. In terms of what else we can do in that academic support hub or in the library is to help you build your academic toolkit. So this is where learning specialists come in. We have staff learning specialists. We also have peer learning specialists. So students right now who are trained to help you develop those skills that you need to become the most successful student that you can be. So a learning specialist will often meet one-on-one with someone to talk about what's happening with their learning or what your learning goals are. It could be that 5 courses is a lot and you're trying to also, build into your schedule being in a student group or having a job. Some students come to us because they feel like they can't get started. They don't know where to start exactly, or they know they've been procrastinating on something and they want to help to get over that procrastination. Some students struggle with perfectionism and not wanting to hand something in until they think it's perfect. So they end up spending a lot of time, a lot of unnecessary time trying to create that perfect assignment. Lots of students come in trying to figure out how do they take lecture notes when the lecturer is continuing to speak and you're either trying to type or write as much as you can. We can help you figure out what kind of notes you need to take for that class and how you can use those notes most efficiently to become your study tools. I would encourage you to book early with a learning specialist if you're interested in making some changes to how you're learning or studying in university. We do get really busy right after the results of that first midterm. So if you want some support, please book right away. We are waiting for you to come and talk to us. We don't want you to go and try to figure this all out on yourself. Come to us with any question, and really anything is fine, from I don't know where to start to something really niche like, hey, I need some help studying for multiple choice exams, because in first year, typically you're going to get a fair number of multiple choice exams. We don't want you to try to figure it all out by yourself. Another thing that students come to us with is to develop their writing skills. So writing at university is likely going to be very, very different from what you've experienced so far. The good news is we have writing specialists who are dedicated to supporting you at any step along the writing process. That could be from having an assignment and just starting to think about it, to having a full draft and saying like, hey, can you help me figure out how do I get this level of writing to be more academic, to be more what my instructor is expecting of me. With writing specialists too, you can have multiple appointments in a week. So if you're working on a draft and you want that regular feedback, you can do that. And as you continue to use those services, you'll see that your writing skills improve throughout that time. As you'd expect at university, at the library, sorry, we do have a lot of support around research skills. So you're going to hear things, or when you're reading your course outline, you're going to see things like you're going to need peer-reviewed academic sources for a written assignment. And if you don't know what that is, the library is the place to start. You can meet with research librarians. You can also use a lot of our digital resources that we have available, and you can come in and figure out like, what does that mean? Where do I find it? At the front desk of the library, it's our Ask Us desk, our welcome desk. And if you are just concerned about anything that I've mentioned so far, you can go into that front desk and just ask them. They will be happy to direct you to whoever who can help you best in the library. In a little bit, I have a link that will be available for booking appointments. So that's booking appointments around learning, around writing, around research. We have tons of supports available for you for every step of your academic journey. The next slide here is all about the library. When you go onto the library website, it has basically everything that you need to know. I'm just looking at my thing here about booking appointments. It has workshops. It has events that are coming up. And then it has even things like, you know, how busy is the library right now. I will say that regardless of how busy the library is, the Starbucks is always busy. So if you need a Starbucks between class, the library Starbucks is very handy, but also very busy. So you want to work that into your schedule. So on the library website, also you can search for books or journal articles and any other academic resources. You can find practical things like the library hours and study spaces. And there are rooms that you can book. So if you do want to book with your friends and study in the library, you'll want to do that as soon as possible. So you get the spaces before they book up. Please do not wait until an assignment is due and you're trying to work overnight to get that assignment in, because we have all of the support. Get there early. One of the things you can do, you can also book an appointment for a few days down the road, and you can use that as a motivation technique to get some of that writing done before you have that appointment. I think that is it for me. And our social media, please follow us, because when we do have events or workshops coming up, we will post it there. We also will post things that you can expect during that first semester, especially. So we know that first semester is a little roller coastery for some people, and we will post things that we think will help you out the most during that semester. Yeah, thanks very much. I'm going to pass it off to Shannon from Wellness. Thanks, Shannon.
Amazing. Thanks, Heather. So hi, everyone. I'm Shannon. I use she and her pronouns. I'm a wellness educator in the Wellness Education Promotion Center here in Student Wellness Services. So I'm going to be talking to you sort of really broadly about all of the units that are available in student wellness, since part of succeeding academically is feeling both well physically and mentally. So Student Wellness Services, we provide mental health, physical health, accessibility services on campus, all of which are free to access for all University of Guelph students, regardless of whether you are an international or a domestic student. We are located on campus in the J.T. Powell building, which is right next to the Athletic Center. You can't miss us. It says Center for Student Wellness in huge letters on our windows. So I'm going to go over a quick overview of all of our services, but you can find a lot more details on our website, wellness.uofguelph.ca. So our first thing is our health clinic or student health services. They basically act as your family doctor away from home. So they provide health and medical services for U of G students, including treatment for illness or injury. They do reproductive health, so STI testing, birth control, pap tests. They do mental health support, dietitian services, your regular immunizations, and more. Anything that you would go see a doctor or a nurse for, they're there for you. We also have our counseling services. They offer a number of options to help support students through personal challenges. That includes both individual counseling appointments, same-day drop-ins, urgent or crisis support. We have a number of therapy groups and then specific counseling hours for Black and racialized students. Student accessibility services is a whole section of student wellness. I'm going to cover that in a lot more detail in a following section. Our sexual and gender-based violence support and education, that team provides support for students with exploring options related to either navigating sexual or gender-based violence cases. They carry a trauma-informed, empathetic, and student-centered approach and are really open to hearing about any kind of sexual and gender-based violence occurrences. And it doesn't have to be something related to campus. It doesn't even have to be something that happened to you. Their goal really is to prioritize safety and work with you to address your concerns. So things that our sexual and gender-based violence support coordinators can support you through are academic accommodations, safety planning, reporting, if that's a route that you want to go down, court dates, resource navigations, and much, much more. The Wellness Education and Promotion Center, that's where I work. We provide health education and outreach events through wellness education. And we also have a lot of opportunities for students to get involved on campus. So we've got tons of resources about health topics, including mental health, sexual health, substance use, and again, sexual and gender-based violence. And you'll see our student educators at events all across campus. You'll see us during orientation week. If you ever have any questions about your health or your well-being, you can always reach out to us at the Wellness Center. And we're very happy to either provide you with the education or the resources that you need or help point you in the right direction. Finally, we have our student support network, a free peer-to-peer drop-in counseling service where you can talk to other students about anything that's on your mind. So they're really extensively trained. They are all fellow undergrads that provide additional hours and an opportunity to just chat with someone and then get potentially more connected or maybe just get things off your chest. We, in SSN, similar to counseling, have specific hours, again, dedicated for Black and racialized students. Those hours are Fridays from 4 to 6 p.m., and they're also available on our website. And then finally, this is a lot of things. We're a pretty big department. We have a lot of services. If you're ever not sure where to start or you're accessing mental health supports for the first time, you're going to want to book an appointment with a advocate. So that's someone that can meet with you really quickly within 24 to 48 hours, and they're going to work with you to listen, hear what's going on, what you're looking for, and they'll help provide resources and support options and come up with a plan that's really going to best fit your needs. So you can learn about all of our services, how to book appointments, all of that stuff is on our website, wellness.uofguelph.ca. You can also check out all of our events on Griff Life. We post every event that is coming up there. And you can also follow us on our Instagram, wellness_UofG. That's where we post, again, all of our upcoming events, opportunities to get involved and share important information to help you stay healthy. So if you have any questions about any of that, you can check out our website, or you can email us and my team at wellness@uofguelph.ca. The other thing that I want to share with some folks are just some tips to help take care of yourselves, to help keep yourselves healthy as you're transitioning to university, again, so that you can really thrive academically. So as the semester starts, it's really important to prioritize your own self-care during this time of change. So this can mean things like making sure that you're getting time to rest, that you're getting enough sleep, you have time to reset yourself among all of that busyness, all of that excitement, and recognizing that maybe an all-nighter isn't necessarily the best thing. Maybe it's going to be important to get that good night's sleep so that you can really focus, pay attention, make sure that you're taking it all in. Acknowledging your emotions, recognizing and validating any feelings that you're having, that it's really normal to experience a really big range of emotions, from feeling really excited, feeling really happy, feeling, like you're making all these friends, and also that you might be stressed out, you might be homesick, you might be lonely. Any of those things in that range, beyond all of those things, are totally okay. And a lot of students are going to be feeling and experiencing the same things. One thing that we tell our students, especially new students, is to think about, adopting that growth mindset. So what that means is embracing the belief that your abilities and your talents can be strengthened over time. That's the whole reason that you're in school. It's why you're in university, to build those skills, to get better at things. And it's okay if you don't get it right the first time. There's always opportunities to try again and do better. And then finally, to seek support. You do not have to figure out everything alone. Really prefer if you didn't. We're all here to support you. So leaning on those campus supports like student wellness, like the library, like student experience, like your friends or potentially your family for help, that's going to be really important so that you don't have to go it alone. And so with that, remember, Student Wellness Services, we're here for you, whether you're sick or you're stressed. Come and check us out. And then I'm also going to talk a little bit more specifically about student accessibility services, or SAS, or SAS. You might hear all of those names once you're here on campus. We're going to dig into that a little bit more because a lot of times this is where students have a lot of questions. So student accessibility services, they are part of student wellness, and help to address the structural barriers when a disability is affecting a student's functioning. So SAS, we do this by providing academic accommodations and supports to assist in breaking down those barriers and providing equitable access to education. So basically, in short, we help students when their disability impacts their ability to do the job of being a student. So if you are a student who had an IEP in high school or received accommodations and support for disability-related reasons, you're going to want to make sure that you connect with student accessibility services um, as soon as possible, essentially, to make sure that you're able to get those accommodations. So SAS supports students with documented disabilities. This includes learning disabilities, mental health disorders, physical mobility, dexterity disabilities, as well as ADHD, concussions, ASD, and medical disabilities. Some supports that students may be eligible to access can include things like exam accommodations, so that might mean additional time or a quiet space to write, as well as academic accommodations such as FM systems or note-taking. In order to register with SAS, students need to complete the SAS application that's found on the SAS student portal and upload appropriate documentation that supports their learning needs. This documentation needs to be current and completed by a registered healthcare professional. All of the criteria and guidelines are also available on our website. Once that application and documentation is reviewed, students get assigned to an advisor, and they're going to be a person who's going to help assist you in setting up those individualized accommodations. So if you are a new SAS student, you can also attend our Start Accessible, which is an amazing orientation to SAS. So Start Accessible is a 2.5-day program from September 2nd to September 4th. And it's a really great opportunity for students to meet their SAS advisor, learn how to access SAS services and support, and meet other students, including those that are registered with SAS as well. There's also specifically a session for parents and families on September 2nd from 3 to 4 p.m. Again, all of that information is on our website, and specific information about those orientation programs is going to get shared in the chat for you folks. So students can register with SAS at any point during your academic career. However, sometimes accommodations can take time to arrange. And so if you are someone who is looking to access accommodations for the fall semester, we really recommend that you register as soon as possible. And for more information on registering with SAS and for our summer events, again, check out the SAS website that's posted in the chat and check out those orientation resources and programs, and check out Start Accessible if it's something that feels like it would be up your street. And with that, I'll turn it over to Janessa.
Thanks so much, Shannon. Now we are getting close to the end of our presentation time, so I just want to give folks a heads up. If you have any questions that you've kind of been sitting on, now is the time to post those in the Q&A so that my fellow presenters have a chance to respond before we wrap up around 1 today. So one of the last things we're going to chat about is leadership and getting involved outside of the classroom, because there are a lot of ways that you can stay connected with your academics while getting to know other folks and getting involved. So at the University of Guelph, we want you to enjoy your time as a student and help you grow as a person and a citizen of our campus and the wider community. So for you, this could look like finding a sense of belonging with like-minded students and building connections with mentors and subject matter experts that will help guide your academic journey here through getting involved. We've got a few different kinds of academic organizations and clubs that can help support your studies. So that first type is our college government. So you as a University of Guelph student are part of a college, and which college you're in depends on what program you're enrolled in. At the beginning of this week, you should have got an email through our Start U of G email newsletter, letting you know which college you're a part of. So for example, if you're studying agriculture, you're a part of the Ontario Agricultural College. If you're in something like classical and modern studies, you're under the College of Arts. So each of these colleges has their own college government that's run by students for students, really similar to student councils that you might have had in high school. The college governments typically run big welcome events during orientation week, and then throughout the year, they support student initiatives and special academic projects with funding. They advocate on your behalf with the university's administration, and they always have involvement opportunities available from one-day experiences to year-long executive positions. We also have some smaller academic clubs that work under the guidance of our big college governments. So these might be dedicated to specific majors or specific areas of study. So where the big college government serves everyone in that college, the clubs can get a little bit more specialized. So there's groups like the Accounting Student Association, Chemistry Club, and the Microbiology Student Association. So these are geared to students studying in particular programs and taking specific sets of courses together. They run things that are like social events where you can meet other students in your program, study sessions, and wellness events to help you prepare for papers, term tests, exams, and ways that you can improve your learning as well as celebrate some of those big academic milestones. And the last type of group we have are clubs that are devoted to skill building and career development, no matter what your major is. So groups like Guelph Women in Leadership, Debate Club, the Model United Nations, they can help you learn academic and professional skills like writing or presenting that are applicable across all of your course subjects. Now, you might be wondering how you can find out about these different organizations and how you can join, and that is all done through GriffLife. GriffLife is a website. You can find it at grifflife.ca, as well as an app that you can download. You'll sign in with your University of Guelph login credentials, and then you'll have access to explore all of the different groups and events that we offer here. You'll also find things like workshops and like guest lectures from other institutions, a lot of different things. So you can search by events, you can search by groups to find what interests you and what's going to help you the most in your learning. Now we have reached the end of our presentation. I'm just going to take a moment to take a look in the Q&A. While I'm doing that, feel free to check out our Start U of G website or take note of any of that contact information on the slide. If you ever have a question but you don't know where to go, connect with us at start@uoguelph.ca and we'll get you in touch with the right folks. So looking at the Q&A, we've got a question from Olivia that says, I know we're able to book an appointment for academic assistance at the library. However, if I didn't know who to book an appointment with, would I be able to talk to someone at the front desk of the library to assist and point me in the right direction? And Heather responded, but for the folks that might be watching the recording or haven't read, Heather said that they can definitely point you in the right direction. There is also a chat feature on the library's website where you can get some answers there as well. So if in a month from now you're like, oh, I remember I attended this Start U of G session, they said someone at the library could help me with writing, but I don't know who that is. You can go online to their website, or you could go ask the desk and they'd be able to provide you with that information. Heather also posted an email in the chat. So lib-learning or liblearning@uoguelph.ca, and you can get in touch with their team that way. I'm not seeing any other questions in the Q&A. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us this afternoon. A recording of today's session will be posted by the end of the week on our Start Guide SharePoint, as well as our Student Experience YouTube channel. So if you ever want to go back and watch or be reminded of the things we've talked about today, or in any of our other Start U of G sessions, that's where you can find it. Again, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been great to spend this hour with you, and I hope you have a great day. Bye.